Well, hello everybody, and hello to all my new subscribers who have found me through my woman hits man, man hits back reaction videos. Today we're going to be going on an interesting topic today because National Geographic today, January 16th, 2019, just uploaded a 10-minute video to their YouTube channel with 10 million subscribers, and it's called Flat Earth versus Round Earth. And from what I've gathered, I haven't seen the video yet. I'm going to actually live react to it with you in real time. But I've heard little rumors and things about it. And obviously, the mainstream corporate TV company is setting out to debunk the flat earth. Now, I know if you're new to my channel and you probably think flat earth is ridiculous, well, let's see if what National Geographic presents holds up to the science. Let's see if it holds up to skepticism. Because if you're so convinced you live on a spinning ball, then you should be able to defend it without a hitch, without any room for interpretation and any other ambiguities. Because it's such a concrete, obvious fact, right? We live on a globe. Well, let's see. Because I, myself, have done long distance zoom observations such as this one, lighthouse 13.8 miles away from where I'm standing. According to the official globe curvature calculations, the lighthouse should be hidden by 80 feet of curvature, and there it is in all its stunning glory. So let's go ahead and let us watch in real time and see what the hell. Let's see if it holds up to the scientific scrutiny.
You'd think that with the beautiful photographs that we have of our round blue planet, it would convince any doubters. But there are still some who insist that the world is flat.
Well, it's just obviously and observably flat. Shout out Nathan Oakley. I mean, all you see is flat, all you feel is flat. Neil deGrasse Tyson says it's flat from 35,000 feet. He said you can't see curvature from 128,000 feet, 4 times the height of the average commercial airliner plane. So if you think you've ever seen curvature out of your airplane window, you are hallucinating. Very weird. Let's keep watching.
Correspondent Mariana Vanzella discovers more about this fast-growing movement in California.
I love how they jump to a flat map.
That's the famous blue marble that everybody's seen. But let me tell you something about that famous shot. It's not a photo at all, man. It was made in Photoshop. Cause there ain't no photographs, so that somebody tell me.
Best music ever.
I'm Mariana Van Zeller, and I'm in Southern California to look into a growing movement in America.
I'm a white liberal female, the most privileged class of people in the world. I'm a white liberal female, and I'm out here to expose what these foolish peasants are actually thinking. They actually think that maybe they don't live on a spinning ball because they've actually used some skepticism, skepticism, and they've decided to actually know why we believe we live on a sphere. Most people believe it purely on blind faith. It's a religious thing. When you look into it, you find out that a lot of the evidence for the globe is garbage. Let's keep watching.
People who claim the Earth is flat. They call themselves the Flat Earthers, and we're here to try to understand what's behind this unconventional view and how it can affect the rest of us.
Oh, how can it affect? Yeah, I love they're using the oh my God, it's so bad for society. If you think the Earth is flat, then you're gonna be against measures to fight climate change. They always come up with some silly way to make themselves the victim. It's so sad and desperate.
So what's happening here today? Why are you here?
This matters to me. Flat Earth shows you that you are not a mistake, and you were created, and so you have meaning, and you matter to the world. We're not monkeys floating through space on a ball as an accident.
Completely reasonable. I mean, it's quite rational. You have two worldviews. You have the spinning space ball that 99% of people on Earth believe in through blind faith, the biggest religion in the world, and that teaches you that you are a speck of dust that blew up out of the Big Bang purely by mistake. And then you have a geocentric and then leading to the flat Earth cosmology, which obviously implies that there's more going on than just a Big Bang space accident.
It's not testable, it's not measurable, it's not provable, it's not real.
Right. How old are you guys, just out of curiosity?
27.
Do you think it's a growing movement?
Yes. And we're networking and getting stronger.
No shit, it's a growing movement. That's why you're out there interviewing them, lady.
People are realizing it. It's coming out in the
You can't just naysay skeptics. You know, we're all big fans of skeptics. We're the skeptic community, you know.
media. You're hearing the term flat earth is becoming more normal. People are more open-minded to it.
He's not wrong. A recent survey of Americans found that 2% believe the Earth is flat. For the US population as a whole, that works out to be over 6.5 million people. Even high-profile artists and athletes are getting on board.
Flat.
I want to try to find Mark Sargent, who's one of the leaders of the Flat Earth community.
Nice to see you, man. Oh, we met at Pasadena.
Mark used to design video games and run software trainings. Now, he devotes himself full-time to promoting the flat Earth.
Absolutely.
Hi.
Hi.
You see with all the attention that you must be Mark Sargent.
I am Mark Sargent.
Thanks for meeting us here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I love how they cut off things. I've seen Mark Sargent before. He was being interviewed by, I think, ABC. And they're like, you must be the leader. And then Mark Sargent's like, no, 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 don't you dare go there. I am not the leader. And it looked like she was about to hint. Looked like she was hinting, oh, look at all the attention you're getting, Mark. Again, I think they're trying to push forward the cult aspect. There's a leader to the cult. And I think they did a few cuts there right as Mark said, oh, look, hey. I think they cut off. I have a feeling he probably said what he said during the ABC interview, that he is not a leader of this movement. Because that gives it a cult feel. But let mainstream media do what they do best. Fake news.
So tell me, what is this movement all about?
This movement is about changing the world.
Ah! Notice the title they gave him. Flat Earth Leader. What's a Flat Earth Leader? What is that? Again, they're going with the cult angle, like I told you.
Changing the world, literally. You think for the longest time that you live here. But what if it wasn't this? What if this was just the illusion? Yeah, we're gonna open this thing up. And the reality looked something like this.
That's a beautiful model, I must say.
In a nutshell, you have North Pole at the center, the continents splayed out organically on the sides. Antarctica is stretched around the entire outer edge like an ice wall. The sun and the moon are very, very small, and the stars are just lights in the sky. A giant planetarium.
Makes sense.
It was built by somebody. Someone bigger than us, someone better than us.
Do you think it was a god?
Not my place to say.
Your belief in the Earth being flat flies in the face of
Hundreds of years.
of evidence, of scientific evidence that the world is round. Not only that, we have satellite imagery. We have photos from space that
Yes.
prove that the Earth is round.
I have long distance zoom observations from 13.8 miles away that show everything of this lighthouse from top to bottom, including the trees around its base. I even think I see the seawall there and the little rocks extending out. Literally, I can see everything. So again, this is what the Globers, the Globe cultists, cult members love to do the most. They love to point to the sky for their best proof, because the sky is unfalsifiable. We can't prove anything that's going on. We can't prove what pictures from space, if they're real or not. We can't prove whether or not the space station or the satellites are doing what they tell us that they're doing. We can't prove any of that stuff. But just about anybody can get themselves a long distance zoom camera and test things down to Earth, which ironically, that's how this National Geographic hit piece ends. They do a long distance zoom test over the Salton Sea, as you'll see in a moment. Because I have heard about this thing for a few months now. This is actually like 6 months old. They just finally released it, the actual video. So again, they love to point to the sky. What about all the stuff that you can't check for yourself? You can't falsify. You can't verify. You can't reperform. Let's bring it down to Earth. Why can't I see that lighthouse from 13.8 miles away when it's supposed to be hidden about 80 feet Earth's curvature according to the official globe calculators. But they don't want to do that. They want to mystify you with things you can't prove. Watch.
Right. And nobody here believes any of that anymore.
Oh, it's beautiful, Mike. It really is.
So you don't believe that people traveled in space?
No. Oh, it's much worse than you know.
Okay.
Meaning, the only reason NASA was founded in 1958 was to keep this thing under wraps as best they could.
Why?
Here's a good point. You know what would make this stupid white liberal reporter, I don't even, what do you call her? Reporter? I don't even know what you call it. You know what would make her squirm so bad in front of those big cameras, those big National Geographic cameras? Tell her straight up, just be like, why are you defending Nazis? And she'll be like, whoa, I'm a white liberal. I don't defend Nazis. Yeah, and she'll be like, what are you talking about? And you just be like, oh no, it's like NASA was basically a bunch of Nazi scientists. I mean, look it up. I think it's Operation Paperclip. NASA was basically run by Nazi scientists, rocket scientists. So it's just funny that, you know, these are the left. This is the left. And all you got to do is say the word Nazi and they go crazy. Oh, they'll be racist. So you should be like, why are you defending Nazis? And she'd be like, she have a fucking panic attack. So funny. You gotta flip the magic trick words back onto them, like racist and sexist and bigot. These are just spells they spellbind you with.
Why?
Think of the shock waves. If all of a sudden you're telling a civilization that this model, this isn't it anymore. Flat Earth is the last conspiracy anyone ever looks at.
Mark and his fellow flat earthers seem to be pretty convinced that the Earth is flat and that we've all been lied to for all these years. But I'm interested in knowing what kind of impact this might have, not only for science, but for society at large.
For science.
So we're heading to meet with
There's real science and then there's hijacked, dogmatic, fake science, pseudoscience.
Physicists that we hope can answer some of these questions.
The universe began about 14 billion years ago in an event that we call the Big Bang.
Oh yeah, we just know that. Well, yeah, 14 billion years ago. Does anybody ever realize just how long ago that is, and that they actually think they know what was going on? 14 billion.
James Bullock is a professor of physics and astronomy at the University of California, Irvine. He specializes in how galaxies form.
Did you ever think a few years ago that you'd be having this discussion for National Geographic?
It's frankly shocking. We've known for 2,000 years, based on observations you can make with your own eyes,
Uh-oh. Don't do it, boy. Don't do it.
that the world is round.
But they have all the evidence right in front of them and they still choose not to believe in it.
You know, who knows what motivates people?
There's zero evidence we live on a globe. At least zero conclusive evidence. Again, ships disappearing bottom up. Okay, that's a classic from the ancient Greek days. Ships disappearing bottom up. Now, it's actually falsely attributed to Aristotle. Aristotle did not. There's no record of Aristotle saying that ships disappearing bottom up is proof we live on a globe. Apparently, it was misattributed to him by the very same globe cultists who think they understand their own stupid religion. But still, it's one that's often attributed to him and to the Greeks, that the Greeks saw things, just a ship disappear bottom up as it sailed away over the water. Again, things disappearing bottom up. Okay, a ship disappearing bottom up. Okay, again, why can't I see this lighthouse that's supposed to be hidden by 80 feet? Okay, just like, there you go, debunked. Obviously, there's a big fat caveat. Things aren't just disappearing. Now, the globetards, who for centuries were content with just saying, oh, of course we live in a ball. Look, ships disappear bottom up, dummy. Now, when you go out with a P1000 mega zoom camera and you see a lighthouse that's supposed to be hidden by 80 feet, now there's a big caveat they didn't mention. The globetards didn't mention for thousands of years. And guess what that is? Refraction. Now, refraction is lifting the lighthouse up behind the horizon so you can see it. So technically it's hidden, but the light is refracting up and now you can see the whole lighthouse. So technically you're looking at a hologram. So this is all hilarious because it shows how desperate they are and it shows that they don't go into the details. What about the caveats? There shouldn't be caveats when you're pointing your finger, laughing and mocking at what's supposed to be the dumbest people in the world, flat earthers. It should be slam dunk proof every time. Oh yeah, ships disappear bottom up. Oh, the lighthouse is supposed to be hidden by 80 feet. Oh, we forgot to tell you. There's refraction bending light. Sometimes you can see the whole lighthouse. Sometimes you can't see the whole lighthouse. It's just warping and bending. So when Aristotle saw ships disappearing bottom first, what was he seeing? Was he seeing a refraction, a hologram? Which one is which? See, it's a lot more complicated than they teach you in school. And I think they do that on purpose because they have to present the ball as if they can just slam dunk the globe in through the hoop. Nothing but net. Whoosh, swoosh. They have to present the globe as slam dunk. There's no question about it. And they can't get into the nuances in school because they can't have you even begin to start thinking down that road. That's how the globe sustains itself in society, by a permeating sense of consensus and that it's slam dunk and there's no question about it. The moment you start to ask questions, you start to realize that there's very little evidence for a spinning ball. I thought this sounded crazy a year and a half ago. As I looked into it, though, it turns out the evidence for the spinning ball is paper thin. Paper thin evidence. Paper thin evidence. So, and that's how it works. So I think we'll leave that little nugget right there. Let's keep watching.
People from the inside to believe these things, but science is important. Science is valuable. Science saves lives, it makes our lives better and more comfortable, and it enriches us intellectually. And to question what scientists are saying and suggest that they're part of some massive international global conspiracy, it's really scary.
So Joe Rogan loves talking about how the sugar industry bought off scientists to write studies saying that like fat is bad for you or something like that. Okay, it's very well known that scientists can be bought off. So to arrogantly suggest that it is impossible for scientists to not be bought off, that scientists, which are just human beings at the end of the day, are incorruptible, is so arrogant and misleading. It's disgraceful and funny. But the truth is, speaking of conspiracy theories, let's talk about the greatest conspiracy theory of them all. The globe is the greatest conspiracy theory because the globe cultists, they want you to believe that the universe and the laws of physics exploded out of the Big Bang and have conspired to deceive your senses. Because, as we all know, the Earth looks flat, it feels stationary, it feels flat. According to Neil deGrasse Tyson, even if you're 35,000 feet in a commercial airliner, you cannot see Earth's curvature. He even said that you can't see Earth's curvature from 128,000 feet high. So 102, how much higher do you want to go? You can't even see it there. So everywhere you go on Earth, it's flat, it feels stationary, everything appears to be revolving around us. But the universe has conspired to deceive your senses. That's what they want you to believe. They want you to believe that the universe has conspired to deceive you, deceive your senses. That of all the ways that the universe could explode out of a Big Bang for no reason, just like the professor was saying, we came from the Big Bang, blowing up and in space rocks colliding for no reason, all randomly. Yet they somehow came together in these spherical shapes, okay? They came together in these spherical shapes that look flat and feel flat no matter where you are, even at 128,000 feet, according to Neil deGrasse Tyson. It all looks flat and it feels flat, but somehow this cosmic Big Bang random explosion conspired to deceive your senses. The ultimate conspiracy theory, that's the globe.
Are they a threat to the work that you do as a scientist?
If, say...
Of course they're a threat. Because if they stop going to your colleges because they don't believe what you're telling them is 100% accurate, and they just want to be skeptics, they subscribe to Skeptic Magazine and they just love being skeptics, like part of the skeptic community, of course.
Governments stop funding science because of some kind of anti-science, anti-intellectual feedback they're getting from the populace. That's when it really starts getting dangerous for our civilization.
Salton Sea, here you go.
As the war on science heats up, some Americans are fighting back.
We're heading to the largest lake in California to meet the Independent Investigations Group, which is a group that essentially debunks paranormal claims. And they want to do a round Earth test, basically a test that will prove that the Earth is not flat, but that it is round.
Let's go. We're ready to launch. You ready, Craig?
James, how are you?
Okay.
Okay, so what's happening here right now?
Okay, this is the boat-based target. It's horizontal stripes. We're going to launch a small boat out into the water here with a striped target. Come on, Daddy! And as it gets farther and farther out, you'll start to lose the stripes.
One way that Aristotle proved 2,000 years ago that the Earth is a sphere was with a boat test, very similar to this one. As a boat approaches the horizon, it appears to slowly dip down.
Okay, wait a minute. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. Okay, guys, so this is absolutely spectacular. I was literally talking about how this proof of the globe was misattributed to Aristotle like a few minutes ago, and now National Geographic appears to have misattributed to Aristotle. So they're here to debunk the dumb flat earthers, but they're not even smart enough to do the proper research. Now here's the issue. One of the most commonly cited texts where Aristotle talks about his proofs for the globe is his treatise called On the Heavens, by Aristotle, of course. And I went ahead like months ago and I looked and I read his treatise on the heavens to see what his proofs were, and I noticed that nowhere I could see anything written about ships disappearing bottom up as a proof of the globe, like National Geographic just said. And I found on stackexchange.com somebody had actually asked this question: did Aristotle note that ships disappear over the horizon hull first? Now there's a lot of back and forth, but pretty much everyone is saying we can't find the quote of Aristotle saying that. And the best answer I see is right here from, and then he links to a source, Queries and Answer, ISIS 41 number 2, linked to by Sand1 in the comments above. We see that the proof of the sphericity of the Earth, based on the fact that masts of a ship are visible above the horizon when the body of the ship is no longer visible, this has been attributed to Aristotle in De Caelo, which I think is a book, but it does not appear there. It does, however, appear in De Revolutionibus of Copernicus in reference to a light on the tip of a mast. A similar statement may be found in Ptolemy's Alchemist, where it is stated, quote, whenever we sail towards mountains or any high places from whatever angle, in whatever direction, we see their bulk little by little increasing as if they are rising from the sea, whereas before they seem submerged because of the curvature of the water's surface. And the person concludes, so it appears that while Aristotle had several arguments for the sphericity of Earth, he did not in fact argue it based on ships sinking below the horizon. However, it is often falsely attributed to him. So I don't know. I'll show you this. There's another video by probably another atheist. They're all the globe defenders are atheists, it seems. The real hardcore ones are atheists. This is a video from Soliloquy, uploaded in April of 2015, and it talks about how did ancient Greek philosophers know the Earth was round, and it goes over some of the proofs and evidences that Aristotle provided, including, as you can see right here, shadow of the Earth on the moon during a lunar eclipse. But then he moves on to another one that Aristotle wrote down. Let's listen.
He also noted that as a traveller moved south, the southern constellations rise higher and higher above the horizon. Since the constellations were not moving for those not travelling, the only option to explain this was the horizon was falling, evidence of a curved surface.
Right, and that's actually listed in Aristotle's treatise on the heavens. But what's not listed is ships disappearing bottom up. Now let's keep watching the video.
Together, these astrological observations convinced Aristotle, and almost anyone else educated at the time, that the Earth was indeed a sphere. Later, other ancient scholars built upon Aristotle's arguments. Claudius Ptolemy put forth the arguments that as a ship sailed towards the horizon, it vanishes hull first, while mountains rise from the horizon as the observer approaches. That as a ship arguments. Claudius Ptolemy put forth.
So as you can see in this video, ships disappearing bottom up as an argument for the proving the globe is attributed to Ptolemy, not to Aristotle. So something's messed up here. It might just be that, a lot of these ancient documents got burned down, like Eratosthenes' thing got burned down, the Library of Alexandria, everything got burned down. But the point is that not even the globe defenders are getting the story right. They're all misattributing and misquoting, and going back to National Geographic, the question is, where's the proof? Where's the proof that that the globe, that Aristotle cited ships disappearing bottom up as proof we live on a sphere? Where is the damn proof? This is stunningly ironic. You're not going to believe this. Listen.
One way that Aristotle proved 2,000 years ago that the Earth is a sphere was with a boat test, very similar to this one. As a boat approaches the horizon, it appears to slowly dip down into the water before disappearing completely. That's got everything to do with the curvature of the Earth. If the planet was flat, the entire boat would remain visible.
And listen, watch what she says next.
If the planet was flat, the entire boat would remain visible. That's got everything to do with the curvature.
So here's what's incredibly stunning. Look what they've done. They've literally showed you the answer to this ancient hoax. So you see these angles here, and I got to give a shout out to Nathan Oakley and crew. I mean, probably one of the best just YouTube channels I've ever watched. It's just so incredible. I'll put a link to the Nathan Oakley YouTube channel down below. Go over there, subscribe. I mean, literally, the guy does open flat earth debates every day. He puts a public link. Anybody can click on that link and join. He does it 7 days a week. Anyone can join. Flat earth, globe earth, whatever you believe. And he just debates anybody. It's riveting. It's riveting just to watch it. There's nothing like it on the internet. I can't recommend it enough. My favorite, pretty much my favorite YouTube channel right now. Nathan Oakley's Flat Earth Debate Show. The link is down below. Click it, go subscribe. You won't regret it. But with that being said, take a look at this. So this is a diagram that I made to show my brother. We were going on a discussion on this very topic about things disappearing bottom up, and I decided to create this diagram to help explain it. And again, shout out to Nathan Oakley and crew, because they actually did a very similar diagram, but this is one that I made to show how things can disappear bottom up. So first of all, notice that this looks very similar to what National Geographic shows you here. Look familiar? Notice how you have a guy over here observing something. You have these two angles here, or technically it's this one, the blue line, big angle, and then there's the line going straight across in a tangent from the level of his telescope. So you have a straight line tangent, and then you have the two big lines, because that's how your vision works, believe it or not. It works in angles. So if we come down here, so I made this diagram. It's pretty much, it's funny because I made this 2 weeks ago, and now National Geographic comes out with this thing. I mean, it's just like, sometimes the timing is too much. So I have a guy standing here. You have the angle of his vision to the top of the boat, and you have the angle to the bottom of the boat, and then you have this tangent line going straight out from his eye level. What do you notice? What you'll notice is that the angle below his eye level, this is a smaller angle right here than the angle up here, because just trace the lines. So I made a more expanded version of this, as you can see here. Imagine the person is standing over here, and this is the same boat, but at different distances. Same boat, but imagine that each one is just different distances further and further away from the person. We already know from this image that the bottom angle is smaller than the top angle. Now, if we go to this one, what you're going to notice is that as the boat gets further and further away, the angle to the bottom of the ship is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, it's also getting smaller for the top of the ship. Okay, look at the red line. This is the red line from the person's eye to the top of the ship to the closest ship. Now look at the black line, which is from the person's eye to the further away ship. Notice the angle is obviously a smaller angle. The red angle is larger than the black angle. Then we look at the line from the person's eye, the green one, all the way to the top of the ship over here. And what do you see? You see that the green angle to the top of the furthest ship is actually even smaller than the black one and smaller than the red one. The same is also true with the angles below the person's eye level. And so as the ship gets further and further out, the angles to the ship get thinner and thinner and thinner. And let me just zoom in just so maybe you guys can see it a little better. So there it is. As you can see, his angle, the red line to the bottom of the ship, it's a pretty wide angle there. But then to the black line to the second ship, that's your angle. And then the green line all the way to the bottom of the ship over here. And let's zoom in on these angles. These are the angles here. You can see that the red line for the ship up close is much wider than the black line to the second further away ship, and the black line is even wider than the green line angle. So this might seem complex and stuff for those who are uninitiated, but the point here is very simple. That things that are, okay, because the person is standing, first of all, ships that are further away something is, the smaller its angular size is. So if you just compare the red line over here to this line over here, it has a much wider angle than for the ship that's further away. Wide angle close, the further, smaller away something gets, the smaller its angular size, right? So that's sort of a given. But here's where the real nuance goes into play. Because the person standing here, let's go back to the other one. Because the person standing here is at a lower height. Okay, you know what? Let's go to the other one. It's going to be even better that way. I'm going to go to the other one. Just give me a second here. Because the person that's standing looking at these ships, their eye line is below the midpoint of the ship's height. So example, this ruler has been scaled so that 10 inches on the ruler matches the height of the boat. 10 inches on this ruler matches the height of the boat. So halfway on the boat would be the 5-inch mark. Halfway on the boat would be 5 inches. Would you say that the observer, their height is currently at the halfway point of the ship? Clearly not. This observer is not up here at the 5-inch mark. They're actually down here at the 1.8 or so inch mark, not even 2 inches. Because they're closer, because they're lower than the halfway point in terms of their height of the ship's total height, they're close to the ground, you're going to get a smaller angle on the bottom portion of the ship than the rest of the ship above the eye line. And from what I've heard and what I've researched so far, the consequence of this is that as the ship gets further and further away, causing all the angles above his eye line and below his eye line, causing all the angles to get smaller, because the angles below his eye line are already smaller than those above his eye line, the bottom of the ship is going to eventually disappear first before the top of the ship, simply because the bottom of the ship has a smaller angle associated with it than the top of the ship. In fact, 2 weeks ago when I was discussing this with my brother, I actually went ahead and did another version of the diagram where instead of the person's eye height being below the midway point of the boat, I put the observer so that they're above the midway point. So as you can see, the midway point of this boat would be around the 5-inch mark on this ruler. But as you can see, this purple line, the eye height is here at the 7-inch mark. Now, I'm not 100% sure if this would cause the boat to disappear top first, but I think in theory, in principle, that's what would happen. If the person is above the midway point of the top of the boat, or rather of the boat in its entirety, that would cause the top of the boat to disappear top first instead of bottom first. But most people who are standing on the shoreline, in fact, let's go back to this wonderful presentation diagram provided by National Geographic. According to National Geographic, as you can see, most people are standing on a shoreline like this, and boats are naturally bigger than the average 6-foot tall person. Way bigger, if you're talking about masts and sails. So people are not just above, floating in the middle of the air. Okay? When you're doing these observations and you're seeing, let's say you're on a boat yourself floating on the water and you're looking at other boats disappearing to the distance, there you are, you're basically on the surface of the water. In theory, I believe, if you were to elevate this person so that they were above the midpoint of the boat, I think in theory that would mean the boat would disappear top first because of the angles. Now there's also other considerations like Rayleigh's criterion, which I think might cause the ocean and the bottom of the boat to merge. It has to do with the way light works and diffraction limits and stuff like that. I'm not going to get into it now, but so it's fascinating to me that National Geographic would present it and even show you the angles. Notice how there's a smaller angle on the bottom half below their eye line than on the top. Notice that, guys. Notice that. And indeed, that is essentially what's going on over here. If we go back to the original one, nice and simple. Let's go with this one. Below the person's eye line, there's a smaller angle than the top. And from what I gather, the smaller the angle is, the less room there is for pixels in your vision to be resolved. And when there's not enough pixels, it blinks out and disappears. So the bottom actually would disappear. The ship would disappear bottom up. It would actually disappear bottom up just because of how vision works. Very, very fascinating. So let's keep watching. Let's keep watching it.
Curvature of the Earth. If the planet was flat, the entire boat would remain visible.
Or maybe if you just understood how angles and vision works.
So it'll be a very visual depiction of the curvature of the Earth.
Yeah, indeed. Very visual. Yes, that's how it works. Visual. But they don't teach you about the angles.
And what's really interesting is that some of the flat earthers, including Mark Sargent, are actually going to be here for this test. They want to see it for themselves. What do you think is going to happen here today?
I appreciate the scientific group coming out and trying to do this test. Great. Appreciate the enthusiasm. But cannot work.
Can it work?
I'm ready. Bring it up.
So it's starting?
Yeah.
Okay,
So I heard that Salton Sea, the location they're doing this test on, is one of the most humid, warpy, it's like one of the densest, most humid places in California. So of course they're going to go to the place with the most atmospheric miraging effects they could find.
the test is starting. It's starting right now.
At first, all the stripes are clearly visible. But sure enough, as the boat reaches the horizon, the stripes begin to disappear one by one.
It's pretty amazing. You can actually see it pretty clearly with this camera here. And you see that the red...
Are they going to tell us how far away the boat is? Are they going to talk to us about the distances and all that stuff? And by the way, did they secure that giant freaking thing down to the boat? Or is it just some dude holding it, wavering up and down? I hope they were precise.
You know, in the name of science.
Completely disappeared, and it's now getting closer to sort of the middle green stripe, that is.
So we've lost about 1.5 stripes.
Right. So this can only happen why?
Because of the curvature of the Earth.
And let me also say this, that you have to understand that if that boat was, let's say, 5 miles away, there's 5 miles of ripples and waves on the water. And when a ripple is way closer to you than the bottom of some sign, those ripples have a bigger angular size in your vision than the sign that's really, really far away. You know, if I put my hand here, it doesn't mean that my hand is bigger than my head. We have to talk about actual sizes here. But when something is closer to you, like maybe a ripple on the surface of water, and you've got 5, 10, 20 miles, which by the way, they haven't even specified the distances yet. I don't know why they wouldn't do that. When you've got 5, 10, 20 miles of ripples in front of you, the ripples that are closer have a larger angular size value than some sign you're holding right above the water, far, far away, 20 miles away. So believe it or not, even small ripples of water, when compounded with their angular size value being much closer to you than the small sign angularly far, far away, you'd be surprised how much it could begin to obscure things.
So here's what we're shooting.
But Mark Sargent and the other flat earthers have a very different interpretation of the results.
So you don't think that what we're seeing is actually real? You think it's because of heat?
Oh, absolutely heat. Does anyone here in flat Earth believe it's a globe? It's still flat. No, it's anyone, raise a hand. It's not fair either.
This is a demonstration. It doesn't change anything for you.
Lord, no.
Mark, do you really believe this stuff? Tell me the truth. I'm serious.
I absolutely 100% believe we are not on a globe. We are part of a giant studio set. All the world's a stage and you're on it.
Studio set. I don't understand. I don't understand why. I don't understand going with that angle like this. That sounds schizophrenic almost. It's like you're being watched. I mean, I guess if you mean it analogously, but I don't know. That just sounds like, you know, if it's an analogy for like God watching you, fine. But if it's like you literally think freaking the executive producer of the Truman Show is hiding in the moon watching you, that's just bizarre. But you know, just you know they're gonna, you know, National Geographic's gonna run with that.
I still don't understand though. Like, who's gaining from all this, from this large conspiracy?
The highest authority, higher than presidents, the super rich, people that are behind the scenes. Remember, the first rule of power is stay hidden.
So this is for me where I think it gets really dangerous, because we're going back into the dark ages, right? You're essentially perpetuating ignorance by denying science. You know, there's a real life implication in all of this.
Science has had its chance, and they aren't putting up a defense. They're not.
It's so true. It's so true. The Glober. Do you want to know? Do you want to know the reason why? You know, Owen Benjamin doesn't believe we went to the moon and doesn't believe that there's that much solid evidence for the globe. He's still a globe believer. You know, we got to give him that. He's still a globe believer, but he knows that the evidence for the globe is generally weak ass arguments. There's a reason why Logan Paul is going to be releasing a flat Earth documentary, which I think is going to be fairly positive of flat Earth. There might be some trolling in there, but I have a feeling it's going to be positive towards being a skeptic, you know, being part of the skeptic community. And that's going to reach millions and millions of his young followers, which is what the Globe does. The Globe pushers get kids in the public schools when they're young, so don't whine and complain about, oh, you're getting the young people. Yeah, you do it too. You're all about cult brainwashing tactics. Don't play stupid. So it's fantastic. It's absolutely great. So let's keep watching here.
Could potentially usher in a new golden age, or it could usher in an age of chaos.
Wow, here's what's really interesting, guys. Check this out. This is almost the end of the video. There's like 30 seconds left. And, well, let me finish it and then I'll comment, because this could be huge.
Dismiss this as just a silly theory and unimportant. But the problem is that it's a growing movement in America. More and more young people seem to believe that the world is flat. And, you know, it's more than just distrusting government. It's this notion
This lady looks like such a rich white liberal.
that thousands of years of empirical scientific evidence is now being dismissed as a mere conspiracy. And that's where I think it really starts getting dangerous for all of us.
Okay, here's what's super fascinating.
They didn't show the part with the giant balloons. Now, apparently, obviously, when National Geographic was out there at the Salton Sea and they were performing this experiment, there were a bunch of flat earthers there. And of course, the flat earthers were recording the whole shit. And there was a lot of controversy. This is a video from Jeranism YouTube channel. Links to all these videos are below, by the way, in the description. But Jeranism uploaded a video clip that a flat earther captured on the scene for a secondary version that National Geographic and the Independent Investigations Group were performing with giant balloons. You saw the experiment with the giant red, black, white stripe, but what about they had these giant white balloons? Well, check this out. I'll just go ahead and play this clip from Jeranism, links in the description.
In fact, we've got video shown here of them saying they see these balloons. Do those look 40 feet from the sea level to you? Yeah, me neither.
You can see both of them. Perfect. Yep. All right, Josh, help them.
Now here, try to listen carefully to the conversation this guy in the black shirt with the tan shorts is having. He's telling them that the guy next to him just was spotted. The balloons were spotted by the other side. And whoever he's talking to on the phone says something to the effect of, well, he can't see you because he can't look over the curve. Basically saying it's impossible that we would be able to see you right now, yet they just were spotted. They were seen. And he says, okay, good, glad. Go tell them that you can see us. And then the guys on the other side are saying, no, that's impossible. You can't see over the curve. Listen.
I know, but he sees where it is. And then point to it. And look there. Yeah, go. I know, but he sees where it is. And then point to it. And look there.
Yeah, go.
So how far would you say we're up off the water right now?
I'd say 10 feet, maybe?
Yeah, I think I'd say that too. I mean, 15 at the very most.
Yeah, I don't think that much.
So again, if I was a ball believer, how embarrassing. I would much...
So basically, as Jeranism just pointed out here, this footage captured by flat earthers on the scene of the National Geographic documentary shoot in the secondary experiment with these giant balloons, there were flat earthers on the other side of the lake zooming in, and they could see the balloons that are not supposed to be visible according to the globe model. And interestingly enough, that experiment was excluded from this National Geographic hit piece on flat Earth. Now, why would they do such a thing? Why would they do such a thing? I don't know, but it's interesting coincidence, ain't it? Interesting coincidence, ain't it? So apparently that is the end of this really just pathetically weak National Geographic hit piece. I'll put the link below. You guys can go watch it yourselves. It's just another failed attempt. Listen, are you guys skeptics? I'm a big fan of the skeptic community. I'm part of the skeptic community. I don't know if you guys support skepticism. We all have to come out as skeptics. You're probably, I mean, not everybody is a skeptic, but you know, when I became a skeptic, like everything changed because I'm a big fan of just like the skeptic. I'm part of the skeptic community. I'm a skeptic and part of the skeptic community, skepticism. And there's just no good arguments here. This is embarrassing. This is an embarrassing attempt to smear flat Earth and misattributing quotes to Aristotle and literally diagramming the way angles work in our vision. Just classic stuff. So again, that's pretty much it for now. I want to say thank you to everybody for watching. Be sure to check out the links below to everybody's channel. Make sure to go subscribe to the Nathan Oakley Flat Earth Debate Show. Like I said, best damn thing on the internet right now. And that'll be it for now. So thank you guys so much. And let me know what you guys think in the comment section. And as always, stay skeptical.
I travel a lot and I fly a lot and I can see the curvature when I fly.
Okay, so 35,000 feet you can see it, right? That's what you're saying?
generally speaking, I can see a slight curve to it, yeah.
Okay, so Neil deGrasse Tyson says that you can't see it at that altitude, so I really
This really doesn't matter. We have satellites.
That stuff is flat.
That stuff is flat. Don't get me started.